So, jumping on a trampoline. Over the years, I've heard from different coaches in all these different sports that jumping on a trampoline was super beneficial to flush the lymphatic system. And I was like, what is this lymphatic system that's somewhere on my body? And why does it need flushing? There's so many systems in my body that just kind of run on their own, and there's a couple ways to enhance it. Diet, exercise, but it seems fine. But it seemed like physical exercise, especially at a high level, to achieve your best performance, needed this lymphatic system to be firing. So I got a little bit curious, and I looked into what the lymphatic system was. And it turns out the lymphatic system is a complementary system to your circulatory system of your blood. Because as your blood is pumping, or as your blood is flowing, your heart pumps and creates this incredible pressure difference between where the blood comes into the heart and the blood goes out of the heart. So those high pressure arteries and veins across your body kind of press out a liquid component that contains the nutrients that are needed and other small molecules that can be delivered in between the cells of different tissues of your body, like your muscles, delivering proteins to your muscles. And that liquid that has those small molecules is called lymph. Okay, so the lymph is between the cells, and it's bringing the nutrients, but it also takes stuff out because it gives the cells some nutrients that they need, and then they also have created some waste. So they dispose of the waste that those cells don't want to have in their locality anymore. If it's like you're working out and you're building up lactic acid, that needs to be flushed out so that you can go back to recovering and not have that painful lactic acid there anymore. So the lymph flows through, delivers nutrients, and takes out the waste from cells. But it also has an exchange with the bacteria or the viruses that might be in those tissues and trying to infect those cells. So it takes up those small molecules and kind of flushes them through to move them out of the way, move some of them out of the way. And then where does the lymph go? It's deposited its nutrients. It has received waste, received any indicators of infection. Does it have to go somewhere central? Because that would be a long way to bring infected, be it like a particle from a virus or a piece of bacteria. No, it's a beautiful system. It's a distributed system. Throughout your body, you have lymph nodes. There's not just the ones in your neck that you feel when people check and see if you're sick. Those are the biggest ones. But there's over 600 lymph nodes throughout your body. And lots of them are smaller across than a millimeter. Tiny. But in those lymph nodes, the processing takes place, where the lymph that's now containing some waste and some of the infection material or pathogens from those nearby tissues of your body get processed. And for those little pathogens, it's activating your T cells and your B cells of your immune system, so that your body is like, oh, that scratch that you got there caused a little bit of an infection. We need to have a specific response to that to look out for that scratch and help you heal better. So that sounds pretty good. Lymph nodes do that. And they also break down the waste that needs to be further dealt with and removed from your system so that toxins don't accumulate in parts of your body. So in those lymph nodes, there's some really, really, really important functions that are happening. So being able to speed up the process of getting your lymph that's being pressed out of your veins and arteries and veins, and to the local area, flushing it through to the closest lymph node is really, really important so that you have less toxins in your system, because who wants more of those? You can fight infections better because being able to defend yourself is important. So getting the lymph to your lymph nodes is hugely important, especially as fast as you can do it as possible. So that comes back to that thing my coach was saying, or my coaches have been saying about flushing your lymphatic system. How do we get this lymph to move faster? How does it move at all? Well, as it turns out, the lymphatic system doesn't have a centralized pump or something that's keeping it moving. It kind of followed the same model that the lymph nodes did in being a distributed system. And it's distributed and powered by the muscles that you already have. It's a great idea. So, as your muscles contract around that part of your body and are close to the tissues where the lymph is, those muscles press on those tissues and help the lymph flow. And you might think that it could flow in one direction, but it might flow back in the other. They got that one covered also. They've got one-way valves that let when your muscle contracts, let the lymph flow one way, but doesn't let it go back the other, seep back the other direction. So it's continuously moving towards the lymph node where it's needed, being processed a bit, and then continuing up the circulatory system to areas where your blood pressure is lower and the lymph, because it was, remember, it was still the liquid part of your blood, but now it's been cleaned, well, it's gone to the tissues, then been cleaned, and now it can reconnect and rejoin your blood in a purer state so that your blood remains liquid and flowing and delivering all the things that it needs to do. So that's the lymphatic system. So any form of exercise is going to get those skeletal muscles to contract. And another way that you can kind of jostle the lymph into moving is by accelerating. So if it's like out playing with your friends, or if it's just going for a walk and doing those accelerations. But when you think about acceleration, the trampoline is an awesome system for making acceleration happen, because you do it on every bounce. You accelerate to go back up, and you accelerate with gravity to come back down. So in that exchange, your whole lymphatic system is engaged because all of your body is being accelerated as you jump. But that also happens with running. And I love running. But when you're doing long distance running, there's got to be a focus on technique and doing it the right way so you don't get hurt. With a trampoline, you have a little bit more leeway because everything on the trampoline is springy. So if you don't have the perfect form or you're not quite moving in the right way, it's not quite as unforgiving as, say, pavement would be. You can still build those muscles, and actually you have to be load-bearing for more of your stroke of contacting the ground when you're on a trampoline than when you're on the ground, because the ground doesn't give way that much and then keep you load-bearing until you get it back to where it was originally, whereas the trampoline surface does. Actually, now that image of the ground doing that would be really funny. But on a trampoline, it's very normal. Like, as you jump, it's going to be deflected and then come back up with you. So your body has to carry that load for that whole jumping stroke. If your feet are contacting the surface or your arms are contacting the surface, it all has to be engaged. So the fitness benefits of the trampoline are phenomenal. It's also really fun, especially if you're jumping with other people, because then every jump you take is a little different, because they're doing something different. And I personally think it's a phenomenal way to develop your intuition about classical physics, or for children to develop their intuition about classical physics, like how projectiles go, or how harmonic motion happens, or the relative motion of other people jumping as they're jumping. So, building that ingrained experiential knowledge about the way our physical world works, I think was super important for my development and my passion about science, and I think it would also be helpful for a lot more children to look at a trampoline in that context. So in this series of videos, I'll be presenting the fitness aspects and the fitness benefit and the health benefits of jumping on a trampoline, the classical physics and the way that I look at it when I'm jumping or watching people do flips or tricks or stunts on a trampoline, and just the fun that I have out here on this trampoline, and I hope to share it with you all. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you'd like any specific instruction about how to do certain things or explaining more concepts in more depth, I'm definitely open to that, and I really hope you enjoy this series. Thank you so much.